Well, hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. I'm Richard and this is Lap of the World. When we got back from COTA, we didn't even bother unpacking the NSX, stopping just long enough to change brake pads and do a little bit of laundry before we set off for Florida, where you join us today on something akin to the racetrack version of an endless summer as we try and chase the warm, if not always dry weather across the southeastern United States. Our destination on this outing is Palm Beach International Raceway. In operation since 1965, it's hosted, among other things, Trans Am, Top Gear, part of the first Car Trek YouTube series, and several other notable events. Until recently, it was seeking FIA Grade 2 approval, which would have let the track host IMSA and IndyCar events. Unfortunately, in spite of those aspirations, PBIR's nearly 60 years of history may soon come to an end. The sale of the track is pending to a group that allegedly plans to replace the racing circuit with warehouses. If true, that would be a tragedy, but there isn't much that we can do that IndyCar legend Danny Sullivan and Mr. Worldwide himself, Pitbull, haven't already done to help the cause. What we can do, though, is drive the track, either for future reference or for posterity. All right, well, we are now exiting the pits for our first laps of the, what was actually the 2008 revision of PBIR, designed this one by Martin Fake. It's a 2.1 mile, give or take, configuration, 10 turns, and it fits compactly in between PBIR's drag strip and karting course. Now this is, of course, as it always is, my first time here. I've done a little bit of homework via an Assetto Corsa mod, so we'll again see how well that fits reality and kind of go from there. But we are out here. We are out on PBIR. As we pull back into the pits after our first session, which was entirely in the dry, fortunately, in spite of today's forecast, I should mention that our track time today is brought to you by Track Night of America. Not a sponsored video, that's just who's hosting the event, for the record. A quick note that the SCCA's Track Night in America dates at PBIR are some of very few dates available that don't involve committing to a racing school or supercar experience, should you want to drive PBIR before its potential closure. Depending on your particular vintage as a motorsports fan, you may remember this facility as either its original and current name, Palm Beach International Raceway, or perhaps as Moroso Motorsports Park, as it was called from 1981 to 2008. Palm Beach International broke ground in 1964 and opened in 1965 before very nearly taking the 12-hour race away from Sebring after the tragic deaths at the 1966 edition of that endurance classic. The plan only died after PBIR's owners couldn't justify the $1 million renovation that would have been needed to host the race. Otherwise, we may have just witnessed the 55th running of the 12 Hours of Palm Beach. After that close brush with greatness, the most notable race to happen since at PBIR was when then Moroso Motorsports Park hosted the opening round of the Trans Am Series in 1983. That's not to say that the track has been a failure, though. In addition to regular SCCA events, driving schools, and other rental use of the road course, the drag strip has hosted numerous NHRA events as well as the very well-attended Super Chevy Show on multiple occasions, and that's before you get to the non-car related uses of the venue. Did you know that the Rolling Stones, Janis Joplin, and Eric Clapton have all played PBIR? Yeah, neither did I. Bringing things back on topic a bit, I also didn't know that current Formula One world champion Max Verstappen in fact made his third ever single-seat start at PBIR. It was part of the one-off Florida Winter Series in 2014 where he beat Nicholas Latifi for one win. Another notable driver, Lynn St. James, also started her career at PBIR, but with less auspicious results, her car departing the track and sinking into the swamp. A fact that
did live in the back of my mind as I sought any pace on an occasionally moist Florida afternoon with the aim of keeping my NSX between and not against the advanced save barriers. Your lap of Palm Beach International as recorded here starts on the pit straight after you exit the south loop turn, I guess is the best way I can describe it, turn 9. The pit straight is the second longest straight, and it does lead into something of a braking zone for the quick left-right chicane that is turns 1 and 2. As you exit 2, you're going to want to stay tight to the left on 3, maximizing your speed onto this short chute leading into turn 4, which is a bit of a horseshoe with a very late apex. This requires a lot of patience, and hopefully your front end has some grip to it. As you navigate this and get on the gas early, you're going to want to track out to about mid-track, kind of brake towards the outside here to again give yourself a tightening line through turn 5 and onto another short chute. This short chute will lead you up to, I don't know what I would call this, the pond complex, I guess. It's turns 6 and 7 and 8. So turn 6, 7 is more of a little juke, and then 8 is the turn that is probably most important on the track as it leads on to the very, very long, basically length of a drag strip back straight at Palm Beach International. You do have some time here to kind of check your gauges, get your wits about you, and you know, make sure you have your brakes because you're coming into a very hard braking zone, disproportionately hard for the length of the track, as I was hitting 130 before braking somewhere around the 3 and 2 marker. It looks like I overshot that, but I didn't. Actually just kind of waiting there to make sure I had this late enough apexed where I didn't have to hold on to it too much coming out. A little bit of a hiccup there from the car as we come back onto the main straight and cross the line. That 134.9 was my quickest, if not cleanest lap of the day, acknowledging the one borderline rev match there. Everything's alright with the car, don't worry. I don't normally draw comparisons between my own lap times and others due to the number of variables, but what I can say is that had we entered our 300,000 mile NSX in Rob Ferretti, Matt Farah, and Amelia Hartford's Sorted series, it would not have been last among that bevy of highly tuned cars from a lap time perspective, and I'm no Tanner Faust. Maybe they should do a high mileage version if they try it again. Ridiculous comparisons aside, our last session took advantage of one somewhat rare feature of PBIR, and that it is one of very few traditional road courses in the US to be fully lit for night driving. I say fully lit, but it definitely isn't daylight and falls well short in lumens of what one might experience at, say, Charlotte under the lights, but for a relatively small facility, the ability to host evening events is notable and the experience is somewhat unique. And with the checkered flag falling on that last session, it brings to a close a lovely evening here at Palm Beach International Raceway, a track night, you might even say. We really lucked out with the weather, I think. It's been amazing, just balmy all evening. I'm not going to try and get into any detail at this point about how to squeeze tenths out of PBIR. I've only been on the track for an hour or so myself. However, what I can say is this is a very fun and entertaining facility. And honestly, the crowd down here is a good crowd. I talked to a whole bunch of people, all of them friendly to a person. So regardless of how the future pans out for PBIR, if you can make it down here to drive this track, probably a good idea to try and squeeze that in before the end of April of this year. I can highly recommend it. I really enjoyed it. I'm sure you've heard in more detail, and then I'll also have a Just the Laps video talking in more detail about the actual lap. But for now, I hope you've enjoyed watching our visit and experience at PBIR, formerly Moroso Motorsports Park. And we will see you guys in the next one. I'm Richard, this is Lap of the World. We'll see you all in the next video, if not at the track. Since this filming, unfortunately, things seem to have moved forward with PBIR's closure, and you can currently bid at racepbir.com to be the last person to take laps of the road course or the last pair to pass down the drag strip. While this wasn't the most glamorous or famous facility that I visited, I feel lucky and honored to have had at least an evening out on this historic track.